Hi, everyone. I'm your host, Mike Catafo. I run West Coast Go-to-Market at SecurityPal, and joining us on today's episode of In Security is Kaushik Hatti, Chief Information Security Officer at Pinochle.AI. And today our topic is how bad actors are leveraging AI to exploit gaps in security posture. Thanks for joining us, Kaushik. It's great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Looking forward to having a good chat with you.
Likewise. So before we get into the topic of the day, would love to hear your story about how you became a CISO at Pinochle.
So I was in the UK for about 5 years. I was working as an AI scientist in a drug discovery company. I was looking forward for opportunities to come back to India. I had nothing to do with cybersecurity at that stage at all. But I was in chat with a couple of people, and one of them at that time was into AI. This person eventually became my boss because he said, you have AI skills, we have cybersecurity skills. Why don't you just join us? Anyway, we are starting a branch in India. If you want to go back to India for personal reasons, you have the opportunity to be in India and still work for us, and we can do something together by combining the forces. I said, great. And it's been 2 years nearly now, and have been, yeah, I have, I think, learned about 10 years worth experience in 2 years.
So I mean, I love the story because your background's in data science, right?
Yes, in fact, very specifically, it's in data science and biophysics. Like I had been in biomedical field for last 15 years. So
And how did you? I mean, it's amazing because you went from data science, biomedical applications, and then poof, in like a couple of years, you went from doing that to now running security operations at a technology company, one specifically focused on like leveraging AI for cybersecurity, right?
yeah, I have been working with data all my career. It's just that when I was in the UK, I was working, especially at Cambridge University. I was handling projects of about 4 billion data points. And again, when chatting with Rangan Venkatraman, who is our CEO, he said, you have the experience to handle data, whether it's biomedical or cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is also filled with data. If you love data, I'm giving you a problem to solve. So that's how I ended up here.
Love it, love it. Well, thanks for sharing. I think your story is amazing, and I'm excited to chat with you about AI and specifically how bad actors are leveraging AI to exploit gaps in security posture. I'm like, I think kicking off the conversation, curious what you've observed, uh, specifically around how bad actors are leveraging AI to exploit vulnerabilities. Like, what are some of the things you're seeing out there in the field?
The field is changing rapidly. What I saw about 1.5 years back is nearly outdated now in the terms of misuse of AI in cybersecurity. Whatever is happening today is something that I would have never imagined is possible in the near future. For example, 2 days back, there was a conference call happening in a company in Hong Kong. A CTO who has joined from somewhere else on a virtual meeting, along with many other people in the conference call, advised an employee to transfer 25 million to some crazy number of 15 accounts. And the employee, seeing the face of the CTO and taking their instructions, did what he was expected to do, or rather, instructed to do. And the entire call, including the CTO's face and the interaction, was all deep fake.
Whoa. So it's so interesting. So was the primary sort of channel, if you will, it was email. They got an email with instructions of like, so they logged into like a call to do this, or how did it happen? Like, where?
Yes, yeah, the details are yet to be published. There's only, I mean, as I said, it happened just day before yesterday. So I'm still not aware of all the details, but I know this has happened. It is social engineering of the highest grade.
So, like, what are some of the things I guess that's different about? Because I mean, social engineering has been going on. I mean, this has been going on for a while. I guess what are some of the nuances around? I mean, obviously there's the deep fake in terms of like there's obviously one on the video audio side of this that's made tremendous leaps over the last couple of years. But what else is different and more challenging for security leaders, and particularly like employees at companies who may just not understand or not know the capabilities of bad actors in AI.
You are absolutely right. Social engineering is not new. This has it was there. It has been there for ages, in various degrees and various kinds. But what has changed is how social engineering is delivered and the success rate of that activity. So usually, if I have to manipulate somebody, I have to know a little bit about them. There were, a few years back, there were instances where you might get an email from some princely state from, some African country saying that you have, if you pay this much, I will give you this much money, etc., etc. Some basically a different kind of spamming. But now what has happened is it is precision delivery. Using AI, I can know everything about you because we all live in digital world. We all have left some breadcrumbs about our own faces, our own families, family photos, where we live, where we have traveled last month, etc., etc. Everything is there on internet. I can use AI to gather all this information and then surgically deliver one email which you wouldn't suspect it to be wrong at all. It's like, hey, I met your brother who lives in California. I know you visited him last Christmas. He was telling me how nice guy you are. I really liked the portrait that you gifted your brother. I thought I would get in touch with you. And it is coming from
Wow.
somebody you don't know at all. And probably this person do not know your brother also. It's possible that you might have put this information in some, Instagram, Facebook, or whatever. It's easy to get all these things using AI. So this information that I get can be used to construct this delivery mechanism, which is social engineering, which will increase the success rate because you would suspect somebody to know this much details about you and your family and what you did last Christmas.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty wild. What like I guess what's the thing that is there anything out there that folks on the front lines or employees at companies can do to sort of prevent this type of manipulation? Because again, I think what you're talking about is highly targeted, very nuanced, very personalized things that again, like maybe only a couple of people might know. But what are some of the things folks can do to prevent that? Like, is there anything that folks can do to sort of make it harder for bad actors to even get access to that type of information?
Yes. So one of the key things is awareness. So we have to be very aware of how bad actors can misuse our own information, personal information against us. I'll just give you one example. I was out of touch with a friend of mine for a few years. He unusually called me on phone number from some unknown number. I had not, he had changed his phone number, and he said, "Hey, I know this is such and such a person," and he asked some favor, and all I said was, "Hey, tell me what did I eat when I visited your home last time?" And I had visited his house about 7 years back. And there was some incident which he wouldn't have put it on the web, but I wouldn't have put it in the web. And he said, "Oh, I definitely remember what you ate." And he told me this. And I said, "Oh, okay." He was like, "Why are you asking this? It's this crazy thing." I said, "Because I am in this business and I expect to be manipulated."
Wow. Okay. And then like making sure I know one of the things I was talking with another security leader, we're talking about deep fake, and he's just like always have a code name or some type of code word with all your family members so that again if somebody
Yes.
calls you out of the blue and says, "Oh, it's so and so and I'm stuck here, I need you to send me money immediately," like you have some type of code word to sort of at least verify or validate the person is who they say they are.
Yes. No, which you wouldn't expect anybody else to know.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm sure like some of the folks listening to this probably like, "Oh yeah, I have that check, I have this check, okay, this makes sense, these are things that I practice and do regularly." I guess what else can folks do? Like one of the things that comes to mind for me, and I don't know if this is even helpful, is like don't make your social media profiles public. And I think there's ways to do that where it's just at least harder to get access to some of this type of information. Is that helpful at all?
It is helpful to some extent. But what is more helpful is not putting things on social media unless you have a reason to put. So I will tell you a reason why I'm saying this. The thing is, at some point, all these social media profiles will be leaked and will be hacked, either directly, indirectly, or it has already happened. Like, it could be Facebook, Dropbox, or LinkedIn, or anything else. Some parts of this data is actually circulating in dark web.
Hmm.
So even if you have protected your own privacies and etc., there is some breadcrumbs that is always circulating in the dark web, and dark web is a mess. There's no Google like search engine, but people who know how to figure out and how to get data from dark web can get this data.
A question I have is beyond phishing, Kashik. Like, what are some of the ways in which bad actors are leveraging AI to exploit gaps in security posture? Like, what are some of the other things you see out there or have heard of?
So another very important use of AI is evasion techniques. So this is actually tied closely with phishing itself or detection. There are many systems that are already in place where any activity or any unusual activity can be detected. It could be network activity. It could be even emails that seems like spams or seems like phishing. There are algorithms that are built to quickly identify and flag that this is unusual. So in fact, the entire SOC operations, which we call as Security Operations Center, use a lot of such algorithms and plans, and which are defined in a particular manner to detect anything unusual. But if I know what is flagged as unusual, then I can use AI to blend in and ensure that I'm never flagged. So that is why most of the current phishing algorithms, phishing flagging algorithms, have to be immediately updated, because it was meant for an era where AI was not as advanced. This is also true for network. Like we have seen, there are many ways the packets can behave as though it is genuine packets, but indeed it is malicious packets. So AI is also used to intentionally change the pattern or the signature of network data transfers, which will blend in with the existing network, and it's harder to detect it.
And well, I mean, like, how are folks dealing with this? Like, you know, how do security leaders, I guess, bolster their either the defenses or some of the resources that you're using or algorithms are using to sort of detect malicious activity? Like, what are some of the folks doing?
So it has to be addressed with a multifold approach. People, process, and technology. Everything has to be upgraded. So what I mean by that, of course, it is probably evident by technology, but people have to raise their own awareness, and that this is possible. Whatever best of the technology, whatever best of the resources I have with respect to algorithms might not be sufficient in current AI field. So in that way, technology has to improve, and the people have to be aware that this is possible. And then we have to set processes in place like compliances, auditing, and many other kinds of processes. And underlying all of these things, we also have to adapt and use AI against AI. That's exactly why I have joined this company, to use AI against the misuse of AI.
And what are some of the ways in which you think are the most effective ways to use AI against AI? And like, what are some of the things that either you're working on or folks or within the community or other companies are working on to sort of use AI against AI? I love that sort of like framing, by the way.
Yes. So one of the key things that is happening in cybersecurity is data rich but insight poor. By the time I figure out something is going wrong or something is unusual, that would have done already. So how can you get an insight when the activity is going on? Or even better, is it possible to anticipate that something can go wrong here given these circumstances or these conditions, and then fortress it better? So this is where AI can help us. So AI algorithms are helping us to identify what are the possible ways a threat actor can enter the organization under under various kinds of conditions. So these are all simulated. Yeah, of course, using AI we can simulate as many scenarios as we want, and ultimately by simulating these we will be aware what are the gates or crevices through which something bad can enter our organization. So go and patch that on priority. So this is one way of using AI to simulate a breach and then go and fix that problem first.
Interesting. So underneath the hood, the technology is actually in the background simulating breaches to teach itself, okay, this is what it looks like, or this is what a breach looks like, and this is how I can anticipate it.
Yes, that's right.
And, and how do you, I guess, how is the technology marry that sort of process, if you will, with like some of the new techniques and sort of the evolving ways in which bad actors are using AI? Like it's almost like you'd have to anticipate the simulated and the simulated attacks that you may not even know exist, or like methods you may not know exist. But I'm curious how you guys do that.
So end of the day, everything is data. Everything is just data. Just to give you an example, so there are many layers in an organization. They usually call it as 7 layers. uh, you know if you just take the simplest example, I might have a website, and the website might have some vulnerabilities which a threat actor can exploit to enter my website and then hop on to the servers or databases which it is connected to, and then hop on to the infrastructure and then enter the core of the organization. So you can imagine this as a hopping exercise. So if I know everything about an organization, which is usually called as digital twins, then AI algorithms can be leveraged to see what is the shortest path for an external hacker to attack my crown jewel. It could be some business critical application, or a very important database, or it could be an email ID of the CEO, if the email ID is compromised. So in this way, there is the start and the end, which is start is outside the organization and end could be any of the important applications you have, and then you simulate with all the data that you have, and AI can help us quickly chart out what are the shortest paths that a threat actor can exploit, and then go and fix those things.
Interesting. It's almost like a continuous pen test, if you will. It sounds like
Yes.
um, of
Yes.
sorts. Interesting. What I'm also curious, like in if there's anything else you've come across where like anything I'd love to know like the one thing you've seen that just like terrified you, like the either or attack you've heard of that you're just like, oh god, like, I don't even know how
Yes.
folks can defend against this type of thing.
Yes, I can share one of the stories that we had a few months back, wherein a senior executive working out of Canada works for a very large Fortune 500 company. Uh, we came to know that his email was compromised. Nothing terrible happened, but we just came to know that his email was compromised, and somebody was reading it. And then the goose chase started. Like we try to figure out how this happened, and ultimately when we did all the forensics, we came to know that this person was using mobile phone, obviously like everybody else, to access emails. But then that phone was also used by his teenage son to play video games, and he had installed some video games which had some vulnerabilities, and somebody else had hacker had managed to screen read, and and
Ah,
by some suspicious activities that was happening within the organization, we zeroed in and said that this particular executive's email ID is compromised, and that's why this is happening. And we took some time to figure out how exactly somebody was reading, and this was the reason. But mobile phones are also another very important and easy, often targets, attack vectors.
wow. How did you like? How did I'm curious, like how the dots got connected because I feel like that's something that sounds like it would take a long time to kind of piece together. Well, how did somebody's phone get shared with with a child, and all of a sudden, poof,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're
So
exploited.
yes, it is once we identified the person, then we just had to ask him and speak to him for about half an hour and identify. It was not, once we identified the person, it was not very difficult to understand what could have been the reason. And then once the phone was handed over, it was evident in 10 minutes that this was the reason.
Wow. Is that like a is that a type of thing too where you see a lot of folks get in through the gaming world? Is that like pretty common at least to see folks get exploited or gamers get exploited?
I wouldn't necessarily say gamers, but it's not just for gamers. Mobile phones are actually least protected of many IT. In many IT organizations, if you see, most executives, busy executives are often traveling. They use phone for work as much as they use laptop or iPad or whatever. So it is often not considered as a very important IT asset within the organization because of privacy concerns and other things. They might be using their personal phones, etc. So, but this is what can be easily exploited, and we have seen this many times. Mobile phones being targeted. We have seen this many times.
I'm just curious, like, because you bring up a really great point about mobile phones. And like, I don't know that I've worked at a one really large company, and I don't remember anything being done to protect like access through a mobile phone. Now that I'm thinking about it, because of privacy, because it was my phone, it wasn't like it was a work phone. So how do organizations? I guess like what are some of the things you hear about how organizations mitigate that type of risk? Because again, it's like I do access things like Slack or email or whatever. So like, what are some of the things that organizations are doing to mitigate that?
It's the same thing that we do for IT, other IT assets as well, like process, people, and technology. So there are already a technology available to monitor and have some apps specifically to monitor, help monitor every application within a phone. There's also possible to segregate the personal phone into office area and personal area, wherein anything that happens in a personal space cannot be seen, and vice versa. That's also possible. So there are many ways within, in the technology realm itself, that can be used on a mobile phone. The second thing is continuous monitoring. It's very much necessary. Even though I come from a strong AI background and working for as a CISO, one thing I don't want to take for granted is healthy paranoia. I will tell you, healthy paranoia is a good thing to succeed as a CISO. You have to be humble, and I'm absolutely certain somebody is already monitoring me and probably trying to hack me. And and I'm almost certain these people are brainier than me, genius, brilliant. And now, how do I prepare myself for such an eventuality is what keeps me humble. So this is one way to ensure we don't be overconfident about security.
No, I love that. And speaking of humble, I forgot to even mention at the top of the show that you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were just selected to the, I think, first ever 40 under 40 BW Security World Awards in India, right?
Oh yes.
Congratulations, by the way. This is pretty amazing. I'm just curious, like how that came to be. Where you did somebody nominate you? And I mean, I love it, and it's great to obviously have you on the show. I think this was like weeks ago, a couple weeks ago.
You're absolutely. I mean, I'm happy that you noticed it. Yeah, as I said, I feel I have to earn more when I say with credibility to be able to deserve it. I feel it was given to me for my potential than the work I have done. So, but the story is, I somebody reached out to me asking if they can nominate me for this, for this event that was happening in Delhi, in New Delhi, and I just happened during the same time I was in Delhi for some other conference representing my company, and the organizers who were organizing the first event knew somebody in the second event, and they reached out to me, and I said, yeah, fine. And only after going there, I realized the importance, and I was definitely humbled to receive it from some of the genius and veterans, literally, because most of them actually came from defense, actually working in defense, but now transition into security of various kinds of security from them directly. It was a very humbling experience.
Ah, that's amazing. Congratulations. I was going to actually ask you about that too. I think we only have time for a couple more questions. One of them was like, is this also translating, you think, in terms of like leveraging AI on the intelligence side and or again, like fighting bad actors? Like, is this? I'm guessing this is probably happening on the defense side worldwide. But is something that came out of it? Was that a focus and sort of one of the reasons why folks in the defense sector were so keen on meeting you?
Yes, it was. No, it was an event organized by partially by folks in the defense, and they wanted to understand what's happening on the business side of security. And we had very interesting brainstorming sessions for actually 3 days. It was quite a intense sessions. uh, Again, defense from very kinds, many kinds, not just cybersecurity. So I was able to learn a lot of things, and it's truly not very different. Like security and cybersecurity, the core principles are not really very different. That's what I understood from attending this event, and that was the first time I was attending such an event. So at this stage, we are just understanding each other. The defense folks and the cybersecurity business folks are understanding each other.
Oh, that's really cool. I know one of the things I think is to sort of tie up our session. I was thinking about you. You've mentioned a few times people process technology. I guess on the like, if you had to break down, sort of, okay, what is like the top thing like within people process technology? What's the one thing you think is going to be sort of the most important, like for defenses, for security leaders to sort of evolve to keep up with AI?
The first and foremost is people, us. So in any security, and I'm not saying this, it comes from IC3, which is another organization. So from their older report, I think in 2022, that was even before ChatGPT. So according to those reports, uh, the biggest gap in any security, especially in an organization, are human beings, because you just randomly click and open anything and everything, almost everything. And that was like 70% of all cybersecurity problems are because of human beings or human errors. That was even before AI, like ChatGPT and generative AI, generally speaking. And now I am assuming it is likely to be 90% is because of human errors. So if people become aware, then most of these things can be mitigated greatly.
No, I love it, and hopefully this show, this podcast, at least helps in some small way make people a little bit more aware of what's going on out there, and specifically how they can help not click on something they shouldn't be clicking on. So no, I appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, joining us on the show. It's I don't know what time at night it is. It's probably what 9:30, 10 o'clock at night in India.
That's right.
Uh, so I really appreciate you taking time to do this. It was great to meet you and great to have you on the show. So I would love to do it again. But yeah, thanks again, Kaushik, for your time.
Thank you very much, Mike.
All right, take care.